So what I did say, I just wanted to take a little moment to talk about perimenopause in this, and we're going to bring it into the whole course, but I think it is really important to bring in. So this is another cycle within another cycle and another cycle. We've got lots of cycles going on, but as we move in through our late 30s, early 40s, over into our 50s, we are going to start to experience perimenopause. Now, from everything that I've read, and everybody knows how obsessed I am with menopause and menstruation, perimenopause can start to physically show up in our body from anywhere past 35. And I think a lot of women, and I've done courses now with hundreds of women, will say, in hindsight, I remember this. In hindsight, I think was it. And you think, oh, okay. And particularly for the women that might have had children, a lot of symptoms can be put down to, oh, well, I was just tired because I had a toddler, or I was just this because I had a baby, or I thought it was this. And actually, we can maybe see that, yeah, it was a little bit of that, but also it was a little bit of perimenopause coming through. So from, excuse me, in terms of perimenopause, and we're not going to turn this into oh, she's gone again. She knows all this bit anyway. We'll keep recording for her. Menopause. We don't know why menopause happens, and we don't know what triggers menopause. I say we, as in the general world. We actually don't know. Nobody knows. There are lots of theories on it. There are some people that will say, as soon as your eggs run out, you hit menopause. I think we've probably proven that's actually not true, but it's still out there. So even some doctors will say, it's your eggs running out. You've run out of eggs, so you're shutting up shop. That's it, you're done. There's now lots of, studies and things going on to say, well, actually, is it the drop in estrogen? Suddenly we magically stop producing estrogen. We don't know why, it just suddenly stops. Again, that's not necessarily true, because it doesn't just stop, it slowly wanes and it goes up and it goes down, etc. We've also now started to discover that actually estrogen isn't the first hormone to go haywire. It's actually progesterone. So we can actually be estrogen dominant because we stop producing progesterone. So all of the science around this is, as expected, very grey. And I always encourage, go read, explore this. I will give you a shelf full of books to explore all of this on your own and draw your own conclusions from it. But really, we don't really know what triggers perimenopause, and there is much more growing evidence to suggest that it's not just something that suddenly starts to happen. We are actually in a cycle again of just it coming round nice and slowly. So kind of think about it as your second bout of teenage years. Because we get much of the same symptoms. We get the up and down of hormones, we get the mood swings, we get the irregular periods. So it's very familiar. We've already done all of this before. We're just doing it now with full-time jobs, possibly children, possibly dogs, possibly, lots of people that depend on us. It's a little bit more high stakes these days. And some of the first symptoms that you can experience are actually not physical at all. So one of the major symptoms that women describe is anxiety. And that is the first one to hit before the periods start to go haywire, before we feel body aches or hot flashes. It's actually the mental health side of things. So it's feeling the anxiety. It's finding that we're not able to deal with as much stress as we did, or we are dealing with it, but it's actually leading us to burnout. And also that we're finding that we are oversensitized. I nearly said overstimulated then. That's the same thing, but could be taken slightly differently. Oversensitized to things. So we find that we're just overwhelmed with too many people, too many noises. I think I thought I turned into my mum when I asked Dave to turn the car radio off because it was too much noise. It's like, oh my God, I remember my mum saying that. It's happened. It's finally happened. I've turned into my mum. I've got the grey hair and everything. But this is what we might experience first. And then what we might see on top of that, and just slowly wiggling in, is, like we've already mentioned, the slight oddness of our cycles. So I went from a day, 32 days pretty solidly every month, to a 25. And then I went back up to a 38. And then it went back down to a 22. It was just all over the place. I have put things in place, which we're going to explore later in the course, that have helped me even that out. But it's definitely gone down now to about 27. And I only bleed for about 2 days now, rather than used to be sort of 5 days. So you can start to see those those symptoms come in, and it might be every month, it might be every other month, which is quite common to have sort of a normal cycle and then an odd cycle and then a normal cycle and an odd cycle. This could go on for many years, and we're not menopausal until we've not had a period for over a year. Where that can be tricky is if we decide to have something like the coil, which stops our periods altogether, or we're on some kind of it just completely went out of my brain then, some kind of contraception that plays with our cycles. On that, I'd also like to mention, I don't think it applies to anybody here, but if we are on the pill and we're having a bleed, that is generally not our period. So we don't have a period on any kind of pill. It is a pretend period, I like to call it, that has just been put in place to make us feel all a lot more comfortable. Actually, the pill completely stops our cycle. And I don't think it's something that's isn't discussed enough. It just stops our cycle altogether, and it just shuts everything down. When we come off contraception and we also, start to get that cycle back again, we can start to see the effects of that sort of being shut down. I thought for many years that I had a bleed because I had a period every month and I was on the pill, and then I was on the coil and I had that bleed. But yeah, that's not an actual menstrual cycle, because we don't have the up and down of the hormones. We don't have that injection of testosterone. We don't have that lovely form. The bleed was actually just put in to make the Catholic Church feel more comfortable. If you want to read the history on that, it's quite funny. But essentially, that's what it was there for, so that the Catholic Church wouldn't complain about the pill quite as much. So I'll put the book in the email, actually, of what that story is in, because it is quite funny. So perimenopause, is going to start with some mental health, emotional symptoms. We might feel those physical symptoms as well, and it's going to affect our cycle. But actually, the power of cycle tracking is that we can zone in so much to what our body is doing, almost down to the day, that we can then start to see when perimenopause comes in. So, and there's so much then that we can do to treat ourselves and to look after ourselves. Obviously, HRT is everybody's personal decision. I think it can be fantastic for some people. For other people, it's just not an option. For other people, they don't want it. It's a myriad of choices. If you do go on to HRT, it basically mimics your cycle. So it gives you estrogen, it gives you progesterone. Doesn't always give you testosterone, but that is another grumble with modern medicine that we won't take up at the moment. But the NHS are reluctant to give women testosterone because it is a man's hormone, but we'll just leave that one So that it does mimics your cycle. So you do have a bleed, you do have the peaks and troughs of the hormones. What you might ovulate or you might not ovulate depending on your egg storage situation. So it's a choice that many women are going to just have to come to at some point. When we go into this course a little deeper, I'm going to give you loads of protocols and things you can do naturally to help you go through and into perimenopause. And then obviously there's so much information out there, and I will signpost a few great resources for HRT advice as well for those that might want to explore that in the future.